Good evening and welcome to Resource PNG. Tonight we feature Dr. Thomas Webster of the National Research Institute based here in Port Moresby. In this interview, he elaborates on the history of NRI, its aims and the type of researches carried out. Followed by that will be a story on the Karama-Malalawa Road, an initiative of World Bank. Then we have a business segment in which Festus Maginap has a chat to the US Ambassador, His Excellency Teddy Taylor, about the Global Economic Statecraft Day. To start off the evening, here is Eunice with Dr. Thomas Webster, Director of the National Research Institute.
Good evening, Dr. Webster.
Good evening, viewers.
So, just to talk about the National Research Institute, what's its history? What does it do?
The National Research Institute was initially set up as the New Guinea Research Unit, a branch of the Australian National University before independence. I think it was in the 1960s, where it housed anthropologists and sociologists who came to study the Papua New Guinean people. At the time of independence, the government of PNG decided that they wanted a separate public policy institute, a research institute that looked into development issues affecting PNG, and to be able to report to government and provide information on development issues, both social and economic development, and so established the National Research Institute under an Act of Parliament. At that time, it was called the Economic and Policy Research Center.
So how is it funded?
It's funded by a grant of government through the annual budget appropriations, but the institute also has the potential or the ability to get grants from different sponsors, donors, as well as the private sector, especially those who want particular studies to be conducted in an area and who want a report in those areas. We're also able to get funds from private sector and be able to respond to and carry out consultancy work as required.
All right, so let's talk about the people that make up NRI. How many researchers work for you?
There are about 25 researchers. There is an equal number of people involved in the administrative work of the Institute. A small number of the people we classify as administrative are also what I call the knowledge management specialists. Those are the people who manage the information and be able to package it in a way that goes out to the people, to different audience groups. The experts, the academics who want to read our publications, people out in government who don't have the time to read academic papers, but who read policy briefs, and also to the public at large who would be reading newspapers, radio commentaries, TV views, and so forth on policy issues.
So we've covered the kind of work they do. Now, if somebody wanted to work for the National Research Institute, are they science students? Are they scientists, social scientists? What are they?
Basically, the social sciences areas. Our focus area is on public policy research, as we say. Public policy research is on any areas that government makes policies, and it affects development in the areas of social and economic development, basically. And so our work is around 3 areas of government priority at this point in time under Vision 2050. And in line with that, we've just reorganized that. And so the first area is in terms of wealth creation. How can PNG create economic opportunities for its people and generate wealth and better and improve incomes for people? The second area is on people pillar, is in improving health and education outcomes so that we have a better quality of education, particularly basic education, and better health outcomes. The third aspect is in terms of institutional, we call it the institutional strengthening pillar, which is one of the pillars one of the 6 pillars of the Vision 2050, which is looking at the kind of governance arrangements that we have that will contribute to better government and better service delivery for people. So it's focused around elections, around how budgets are managed and implemented, and also about the subnational governance arrangements, the relationship between national, provincial, district, and local level government arrangements. So that how do we improve those governance arrangements so that they are better able to deliver services to our people?
So you've covered the definition of what public policy research means. So let's say public policy research is what you've been focused on. Over the years, what would you say would be the greatest achievement?
The biggest achievements, I think, since 2005, since I've been director here, and from 2004, is the work that we did on the land development program work. land before 2005 was untouched in any discussions on development, basically because people didn't want customary land to be touched, and there were great debates in the 1990s. And in 2001, when the World Bank and international development agencies and the government of PNG then wanted to register customary land, a lot of people went and said that they refused to register land, and students went down and civil society went and protested. We had the University of PNG students killed in 2001, and many people didn't want to touch the issue of developing customary land. And so we took the debate on when government asked us to raise discussions and find a way forward on how we can register customary land. And we organized the 2005 Land Summit in Leh, and the subsequent work that we've done led to finally government establishing making amendments to two laws, the Customary Incorporated Land Group Act and also the Land Registration Act, which now allows people to register their land and be able to customary land and be able to develop it. And that law became effective about a month or two ago, and we're very pleased with that development. And now opens up the potentials for people now are willing to register the land and be able to develop it in terms of property development, agricultural development, and whatsoever, so that it's an opportunity for turn that resource that they have land into wealth, creating wealth for themselves. And I'm pretty proud of the work that we did in terms of that. So now customary land development is no longer an issue as seen then. It's now people are willing to come forward and register their customary land. It's pleasing to see that.
Yeah, that sounds like very pleasing results there. So that was the past. What is NRI working on right now?
Right now, we're building on the land work. I think the law is there. What we need to do is there are many obstacles. What are the problems that customary landowners will have in terms of getting surveyors to come in and survey land, having it registered, and having the incorporated land group, and the redistribution of the benefits from the land rentals that they get among the different landowners. That's a difficult part going forward. One of the things we see in a lot of our research, in our resource producing areas, in mines, in gas, but in gas in the future, in forestry areas, is the equitable distribution of wealth that's coming from the extraction of those resources. Only a few people get those resources, and the rest of the people are left, just out there without any benefits. And what we would like to work on is how do we have the Incorporated Land Group Act, which really forces the land group to have a management committee, to have a board of directors that will make decisions on how their proceeds are spent and managed. And we would like to understand and help to improve that process so that the wealth that's generated from resources is equitably distributed among all the landowners. I think that's a big area going forward. The other area which is related to that is the sovereign wealth fund and the better management of budgets relating to that, in terms of there's 2 or 3 billion kina that's going to be available to the government to spend every year from the LNG gas projects. I mean, the current project as well as other projects that are expected to come online. The mines are producing a lot of money at this point in time. How are we going to manage the wealth that's coming off this, and how do we spend it so that the people actually benefit and we see some benefits from that? So that's one core area that we've started, or we will be starting on this year, and we hope to expand on it, is how do we formulate the budget so that the better resources of the wealth that's being generated from the resource boom is better spent so that there are tangible benefits at the end of the day. And so we'll be, as part of this research project, there'll be 2 forums every year, one following the passing of the budget in the beginning of the year, looking at how the budget is going to be implemented, and one during the year saying, well, now that the budget has been implemented, how successfully are we implementing, and where are the areas that we need to prioritize, and which, is it infrastructure, is it education, is it health? So the structure of the budget and the allocation to the different sectors is something that we will be concerned about. Also in relation to that, we have 2 projects, or 3 projects actually. We'll be doing what we call budget tracking. And budget tracking is really, when the budget is passed, the government allocates money for education or school fee or for purchase of medicines and so on. We'll be taking those 2, school fee subsidy, purchase of medical supplies, and roads construction under the district development programs as 3 areas that we'll be looking at closely this year and towards the end of this year and next year, saying how effectively have the funds allocated to those 3 areas been spent. where has it been spent? From the national level, where did it go to the provincial level? Did it go down to the school level in terms of school fee subsidies? At the school level, who made the decisions about what to spend it on, and did they spend it effectively? So what we'll be doing is we'll be taking a sample of this. We won't go to every school, or we won't go to every health center, but we will be sampling that. And through the sampling process, we try to get an understanding of where are the bottlenecks, how effectively were funds spent, who's making the decisions, and are there any ways of improving that process so that funds that are allocated in the budget are better spent so that there are tangible outcomes at the end. And that's one thing that we would be working on going forward. The third and the biggest, and there are many other projects that we have in the pipeline, but I think the one that I would really like to put forward, and I'm pushing our staff to do that, is what I call the PNG Development Performance Monitoring Center. It's basically tied to these budgets. We have a lot of money going into the health sector, education sector. We have a lot of money going to different government departments, to provincial governments, down to district level. But what do we get out of that? And so what we would like to use is get a few key indicators of outcomes, performance outcomes in terms of health, education, road network, agriculture, and get just a few and then sorting them out by districts, collecting data and saying, in 2010, where were we in terms of those key development performance indicators, and track them over time. So every year we start to update the data, and where there are poor performances by districts and by provinces, we can say that this district is not performing poorly, the health indicators are poor. We can put focus and pressure on those particular districts to improve their performance. And if we can do that, hopefully as we focus on the underperforming districts and underperforming provinces, we can help them to improve their performance so that those underperforming areas improve, and so overall PNG can improve. And that's something that I'm very keen on, and I would like to put it in place in a year or two so that it becomes very effective as an accountability mechanism. So when we release those data, then people for instance, in Baimuru district, for instance, they can say, well, our indicators for health and education are at this level compared to Ramu district that is at this level now. What can we do, or why is it that we are at this level and the other districts are there at an higher level? And so people can start to ask questions and make people accountable for better management of government funds to improve service delivery.
Still more to hear from Dr. Webster about the kind of research currently carried out at NRI, and that will be right after this short break. Welcome back. In the second part of the interview with Dr. Webster, Eunice discusses about the research work and a number of reports that the National Research Institute has covered. Here they are.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of great work that NRI is doing. Now, Papua New Guinea is going through an economic boom currently. Is NRI doing any research work just with regards to the resource boom?
We started, thank you for raising that, we started on that work when the Sovereign Wealth Fund arrangements were being pushed for, and then the idea of a Sovereign Wealth Fund was established. We contributed to the initial discussion papers. I had a researcher who was working on that, and that researcher also worked on the Pogra mines as a study to understand the financial benefits from that, and I'll talk about that in a little while. But one of the major problems that I find is getting good researchers to do the work. This researcher that I had was a partner of an Australian woman who was working in the outside office. He came here intending to work for about 2 years while his partner was there. He was only here for a year and a half, and he went back, and we had to follow up for him to finish the report, and fortunately he finished the reports. What we realized is that we are unable to attract researchers because of our public service salary scales and having a public service salary ceiling that does not allow us to attract people. However, this researcher was here, and he did 2 valuable pieces of work in that area. Initially, he made a study on the Sovereign Wealth Fund. The Sovereign Wealth Fund, we realized as he did the background research work, is that it's not a new concept. When the Bougainville project, Mogunmet project mine came on stream, and other mines came on stream, there was a surplus cash coming into government treasury, and therefore governments try to set up what they call stabilization funds. And stabilization funds are clearly the budgets are annually. They're probably they have a set allocation. Government departments are set up to spend that. If you have extra surplus funds coming into the government budget system, they don't know how to spend it. And sometimes, like you and I, when we have extra money, we don't know what to do with it. So we spend it unwisely on different things that really are not priority. And later on, we regret that, we had this good money and we should have saved it, or we should have spent it on another area that would have been benefit in the long run. And that's exactly what a stabilization fund is supposed to do. But there are different mechanisms that did not allow for the benefits or the intended outcomes to happen. And so money went into those stabilization funds and it got spent very quickly as well. And so what we recommended from that analysis of the past was that, yes, we need a stabilization fund, a sovereign wealth fund, but we need stronger legislation to make sure that it's not easily accessible by bureaucrats and politicians, especially at the Executive Council. And we propose for Parliament to be responsible for the sovereign wealth fund and reports to be made to Parliament. And we're quite happy to see that the policy regarding the sovereign wealth fund funds cannot be easily, or the policy cannot be easily changed. It has to go to Parliament for change. And so I think that's a major area that we contributed, and we feel happy to see that the changes or the arrangement in the sovereign wealth fund reflect that. I think the second area that he has contributed to is the Porgera mine study. Meaning, we have all these different financial benefits coming off from mining gold, forestry, now the LNG gas project. And we hear people saying that, we're not getting enough. Porgera landowners, they say we're never getting enough. The provincial government says there's not enough. And the people, when I went there in 2009, I could see that the health centers were closed, the schools were closed. And so I started to ask the question, who's responsible? And I came back and worked with this researcher to undertake that study, trying to understand how much money is generated from that particular mine, and who were the beneficiaries, and how well did they spend the money. And basically, the study establishes that there are about more than 16 billion that was generated from the mine since it was established. Quite a lot of money. And of that 16 billion, about 10 billion was spent by the mine company in terms of operations, in terms of establishing and so forth, and their own profits. That's fine. 6 billion of that, since the mine was established, has come to Papua New Guineans. About 1.5 billion to landowners, about 300 or 400 million to Enga provincial government and Porgera Development Authority. So it's quite a lot of money. But why is it that people are saying that we haven't seen the money, and why is it that the health centers and schools are closed? That's a question that we will be investigating further. I think what the important thing is that we have now established through this study, with the cooperation of Barrick, saying that yes, there was financial streams, different financial streams that came out of the Porgera mine. There are financial streams that went to landowners. There are financial benefit streams that went to Porgera Development Authority, to the Enga provincial government, to the national government. There were certain expectations of the operators, Barrick, for the national government to provide policing, to maintain roads, to provide schools and so forth. The national government, of course, did not honor many of the commitments that were made under the agreements, and we realized from that study. So I think the follow-on work that we would like to do is, what are the things, where were these financial streams? How was the national and provincial government expected to spend? Where have they spent it on, and could we do that more effectively for not only for Porgera, but for other mines that are operating around the country, and also for the LNG gas project? The most important work that I would personally like to see is how the benefits equitably shared among the landowner groups. Who benefited from it? Did they benefit from it? If they did benefit from it and they spent all their money, well, how can we make our landowners, train them, teach them, make them aware that they need to better manage their resources, and not like we do in Papua New Guinea, when we have lots of money, we spend it in one go, and then we don't have enough money, and we keep saying that, we're not getting enough. Or is it that a few landowners called the principal landowners, sitting in Port Moresby and sitting in Australia, getting all the money through the bank accounts that have been established, and the few or the many that are at the home, they don't even know that these monies that are intended for them are going to those accounts. That's something that I would like to go forward in terms of trying to establish and understand, so that, as I said, it's not only for Porgera, it's for the other mines, and more importantly, it's for the LNG gas project. I think if we must help the people to better share the benefits that are coming off it, so that everybody is satisfied. Otherwise, we run the risk of people raising up and saying we're not getting enough, and doing all they can to close the mine or close the gas project and so forth.
Interesting to know about the reports done by NRI with regard to the resource boom in Papua New Guinea. Do stay around to hear the third part of the interview with Dr. Webster, Director of the National Research Institute. Thank you for staying with us. Let's join Eunice for the last part of the interview with Dr. Thomas Webster.
So NRI has done several research papers, and you're currently looking at doing other projects. So besides the Porgera research you want to do, what other projects are you looking at?
In terms of the financial benefits coming from the resource grants, resource areas, I assume. Yeah. And, what we're looking at is, in terms of land, we would like to work with landowners in terms of urban landowners, the customary landowners in the urban areas, to see how they can better manage and develop the land in the customary land in the urban areas, incorporating the incorporated land group, the groups that will own and register the land, and also how they can establish or register the land and lease it out for development. In terms of the rural areas, we haven't got any project that we're going for, but we will be undertaking studies, especially under the special agriculture business leases, where different land groups have signed up agreements with foresters and developers from overseas in terms of having oil palm estates in the rural areas. We would like to see how those developments are going, and how the financial benefit streams from those developments are being shared equitably among the different landowners. One particular area where we have signed up with a consortium of European universities that we would like to work on is the carbon trade agreement that the European Union is pushing. We have a researcher here who is a forestry expert and has been working in the area of climate change. What we would like to see is how how landowners can potentially register their large forest areas, and how they would be able to engage in carbon trade if it comes forward. And that's something that, so in the area of land area. In terms of mining areas, as I said, I would really like to see how the financial benefits are utilized, and we will continue that work in terms of not only the landowners and how equitably they are getting, but we'll be putting pressure on government and the revenues, the large revenues, or revenues that come in from the extractive industries. How better can we now invest or utilize and expand the revenues that are coming in, so that PNG can reach tangible benefits and not spend a lot of money, and in 10 years we still the same as where we started from. Poor infrastructure, limited road network, limited electricity and other key infrastructure services. Half the kids, the school children of school age in PNG are not in school. Very high child mortality rates. Those are things that we can work on to improve if the funds that are coming off the resource extractive industries are better spent by government.
Thank you. Now, the final question. As the director of NRI, where would you like to see the Institute at in 10 years' time?
10 years' time, I hope that the Institute will have contributed or made a change that people appreciate the importance of research in informing policy decisions. I think that in the PNG we have a culture of people thinking that they are the experts, or one person thinks that they're an expert. Surely they would be an expert, but there are many different multiple perspectives, as we say. And in research, we try to capture those multiple perspectives, and different people have different views. And then, of course, they are correct in analyzing an issue and then putting those views together so that then decisions are based on sound research evidence. And it's something that I would like to see more of in government decision-making process, particularly at the National Executive Council level, but in the government departments and in Parliament, in terms of the major critical decisions of policy going forward. That people, often I see individuals in key decision-making processes, they base a decision on their own personal experiences, and our personal experiences are limited to our own personal experiences, which may be one of many, but not if we look at other experiences, they are just as valid. And so our research activity is a way of collecting through multiple perspectives, multiple views, and putting that through a process where we then put forward common views, common understanding of issues, and common ways of dealing with issues, so that if we use those informed information, or use the information in a sound way to make policy decisions, then they are much more effective than just one's own personal opinion or one personal view. And when they implement it, they realize that, there are obstacles here, and they haven't foreseen those obstacles, and so we end up going back to the drawing board again. And so 10 years from now, going back to your question, I hope that I would like to see decision makers utilizing research information in a more productive way to make structure their decisions or base their decisions on.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Now we know what NRI plans to achieve in the near future. Also, for your information, Resource PNG and the National Research Institute will work closely to give you, our viewers, as much information relating to case studies carried out in the resource-rich areas in PNG. Now, coming up after the break, we take a trip up the Kerema-Malalawa Road and see what has been done to improve the road condition. Welcome back. For this Kerema-Malalawa Road story, Eunice, our Resource PNG reporter, joined a group of executives from the World Bank for a road trip. Let's hear what she got up to.
The people in the Gulf Province have had it hard. Kerema, which is the capital town of the Gulf Province, is only 229 kilometers from Port Moresby, yet Gulf residents do not enjoy the same kind of lifestyle. There was no road connecting the town to the country's capital. The Hiratano Highway only connected Port Moresby to Malalawa, a district station in the Gulf Province which is 67 kilometers short of Kerema. To get to Kerema, however, locals have to get on PMVs that regularly ran this route and get off at Malalawa, then get on a dinghy down the Sapehara River, then out to the open ocean and onto their final destination, Kerema. And usually these boats are overloaded with people and cargo, and some of these journeys do not end well. Kerema is home to some 5,000 people. The Gulf Province has been the major supplier of betel nut and sago to Port Moresby. Betel nut has become the province's major cash crop. Rock up at any one of these markets at Hanua Bada, Lareva Market, Hohola, Tufo Market in Geruhu, and you can see the commotion that betel nut can cause in the early hours of the morning. The dirt road between Malalawa and Kerema was impassable. This was a place where even a four-wheel drive had to be pulled out of the mud using brute force because this area is marshland. The World Bank heard the plea of the Gulf people and put $43 million toward this project to rehabilitate the 67-kilometer stretch between Malalawa and Kerema. The PNG government also pitched in another $10 million while the PNG Sustainable Development Program put in 12 million kina. This 67-kilometer road was split into three, and three contractors worked on each section. From Malalawa to Kepamai, that section was under Dekanai and Global Construction Companies. Global Construction looked after the area between Kepamai and Uamai Bridge, while Lailai Construction did the last 22-kilometer stretch from Uamai to Kerema. This all came about because the people wanted a change.
We are partners with the national government, with the provincial government, with the department. But the real heroes here are the people who did that road. The real heroes are the engineers in the Department of Works, and the men who worked on the road, and the ladies who cooked the food, and all of the people in Gulf Province who lobbied so loud and so effectively that 3 years ago we added Gulf Province to our list of provinces for the road project. So let's hear about the heroes of Kerema and the heroes of Gulf Province.
The men that worked on the road gave their view on how life was before the road came through.
The first time I went there, which was after the contractor had started clearing up things, we tried to go to Kerema and essentially we could not. We got stuck in the mud, and we pushed and we went through a puddle of mud. We moved on further, and then we got stuck again, and then we realized that we just couldn't do it, and we had to come back. It was, as you said, impassable. So basically no one could go through easily by car from Malalawa to Kerema, and especially during the wet season it was impossible to get through, and of course this affected everything in the life in Malalawa.
The road is simply very important because it helps the people like living in and around the roadsides, doing the little bit of market to help them on school fee access, and also on like hospitality, where they need coins, then that it assist them by living. I've been 10 years now in my teaching field, and it is very helpful, like getting all the materials we need, like school materials, transporting them in the very easiest locations, because I'm living along the road, so it makes the access and also the payments a little bit simple and easy.
A road is a sign of development, but it also means speeding vehicles. A speeding truck on a dirt road is a bad combination, but the people at Uamai are talking to the children in their villages.
We have been doing that road safety by encouraging them after every lessons 12. We tell them when there is a vehicle running, you have to stand on the direction. Everybody have to stand on the directions where you think is flexible for you, on one sided, so you can be safe. Or let the vehicle to go through and then you walk later.
The World Bank also asks people to be a bit more cautious.
For sure, when you ride along the road, it is a problem for the vehicle, for the passengers. I cannot help thinking about the people who use PNV to go all the way to Kerema, and being packed on the back of a PNV, and every time the PNV has to stop whenever someone has put up a hump, and everybody's jumping up and down, and that adds to the suffering and the difficulty of traveling along the road. On the other hand, I often wonder, why do people do that? And they obviously do it because, first of all, they want to slow down vehicles so that, when they come close to their houses, they don't go so fast and it's not difficult for their children.
Not everyone owns a vehicle along this road. Another mode of transport has become a common favorite: bicycles. It's cheap and fuel efficient. But seeing that this was a very difficult place to build a road, how did they really do this? How do you build a road on quagmire or swampy land?
The contractor had a big problem trying to reconstruct the road, and they had to travel by boat to get all the materials. And Kerema, we have a bit of problem, is that we don't have a good quality source of gravel around Kerema. So the contractor has to do this work at cutting a load about 40 kilometers, which is quite a distance.
There were several difficulties. I should say, as we were discussing in the beginning, that this is a difficult area because you're essentially in swampy land. So the ground is very soft, material has to be come from elsewhere. So technically there are many difficulties. But I have to say that always with, contractors are local from PNG, consultants that have worked, the Department of Works. I think, the technical difficulties are there, but, we overcome them. Even often when people come in and raise land issues or this and that, I think so far so good. This road worked well.
Mr. Papatanasiu also made a practical suggestion on how PNG could better handle projects worth up to 10 million kina in order to help companies get projects off the ground faster for the sake of the people.
There is this rule in Papua New Guinea that any contract which is above 10 million kina, after it goes through the whole procurement process and it's approved by the Central Supply and Tenders Board, it then needs to get another approval by the National Executive Committee. So for a country like Papua New Guinea that grows so fast and that people ask for infrastructure and development, you can imagine that there is a major number of contracts above 10 million kina, which frankly is not too much money. I mean, we're talking about big projects, roads and all that need to move quickly. What you end up having is a pile up and a huge backlog of projects that need to get approval from the National Executive Committee. And sometimes it takes months to get through that process. I think a simple reform that people could do in Papua New Guinea and get things going and make life easier for agencies to do works and contractors to move on with things is if they could raise that ceiling from which today is at 10 million, and I think it has been 10 million for almost 10 years now. I think they just need to lift that limit to say 25 million or so and make the process of awarding contracts easier for things to go ahead.
After the break, we hear how disasters took a toll on the bridge along the Kerema-Malalawa Road. That's going to be right after these short messages, so stay tuned. Here's Eunice with the second part to the story of the Kerema Road.
Building infrastructure is one thing, but to keep it going is something else. A major link in this Hiratano Highway is the Angabanga Bridge. This bridge has seen better days. Villagers have noted the change in the river's flow and fear that they may lose more land.
We have a problem because of the river. The ground is too soft, and then the river is doing too many damages, especially the house which is next to the bridge here. The first one, which was permanent house built here, was been erased. This is the third time. The first, second, and this is the third time that the erosion has just gone that far. So we were, as the Prime Minister, I asked the Department of Works, especially Provincial Works Manager Francis Natera and ADB Bank. So if this part has been cut, so the full current just will travel to this far to protect the village and not damaging the community environment, especially the housing and the coconuts and gardens and all these things. And then also will protect the apartment which the bridge is sitting on. So last time the big heavy rain was causing this problem that brought the decking just sink. And then houses, especially my house which was next to the bridge, just 10 meters in. And the permanent house was been took off. And then also came to the new house which I built next to the permanent house. I just took it off the roof, all the things off. So I stayed for a while and then AES company just came. I told them for the cutting because I need to get the erosion keeping in one portion under the bridge where I will be keeping safe and also the people and also protecting the gardens.
The Department of Works and the Asian Development Bank have assisted with the bridge maintenance. It is a work in progress.
This bridge was washed out about in February, and it took about 3 weeks to have this bridge restored. Actually, Works Department engaged Global Constructions to put this bridge back on. It was extended by extra 2 bays and was supported by this containers underneath. And we well, actually the ADB have plans to replace this bridge under the bridge replacement program. So it will take soil investigations, geotech investigations, and design to finally tender it and to do construction work. And that will probably be delayed by another 5 years or so. In the meantime, under RMRP, World Bank funded road maintenance, we are planning to do some maintenance on it on our contract from when we come to seal this Inawabui to Berina Junction Road.
Big infrastructure projects like the Angabanga Bridge and the road between Malalao and Kerema are major investments and serve thousands of people that depend on the Hiratano Highway. Now the onus is on the people to maintain it.
Now, in terms of maintenance, what happens in PNG is that because it rains a lot, because there's a lot of bush, very quickly the plants come on the sides of the road and essentially start covering the drains which are on the sides of the road, and they essentially start coming into the road. Now, if the road is not sealed, this is even worse, because the road when it starts raining, the water as it comes down from the road will get blocked, and then you essentially have big breaks in the road and holes and all that. When you pave it, a well-designed road essentially has a small angle, a camper, that as the water falls in, it should run off on the sides of the road. And then on the sides of the road, you would go into the drains, and then the water should be able to move out and stay away from the road. And that is what allows the road to remain in a good condition and be easy to travel. Now, where it is necessary to work with community is first of all to communicate that, this is how a road basically works. And in a place like PNG that rains so much, is to figure out a way so that communities can help keeping the road clear by cutting the grass on the side and ensuring that the drains are also clear, that they don't block them by putting things that they shouldn't be putting there. Or, if a log comes in, someone goes there and cleans it up and keeps the water running away and then the road trafficable. That is one of the challenges and one of the easy things that communities could help with roads to keep them open.
With the major resource boom that PNG is going through, what can we do to ensure it benefits us in the long run? The Malalao to Kerema Road is only one of many infrastructure projects that need maintenance, and it seems sustainable development is the way to go.
This road is not just a road, and it's not just a road to Kerema. This road is an example of what has to be done in Papua New Guinea, throughout the country, in the remote mountains of the highlands, in the wetlands and marshes of Western Province, in the remote islands of New Guinea, all through the country. We have to build sensible, sustainable infrastructure, and we have to maintain it. And we have to do that taking advantage of the special resources that Papua New Guinea has. So you all know that PNG Sustainable Development Program is a very important and unique entity in the world. David Sode and his team take the revenues that come from the Oktedi mine and they invest those revenues for the good not only of the people of Western Province, but of the rest of Papua New Guinea. And it's the only mining trust in the entire country that serves people outside of the mining area. And they have brought their money here. They have brought their money here to Gulf Province.
PNG Sustainable Development Program Chief Executive Officer David Sode agrees and adds that we need to start changing what is non-renewable into renewable resource.
But if you want a future generation, then we've got to build bigger than our own lifespan. And because we're not going to have a second chance, we've now got to make sure that those people who are developing our resources bring development. They actually start building the roads and schools and all because they're harvesting our resources. And it's not going to be renewed. And what we've got to do is convert that non-renewable resource into renewable resource. And what is renewable resource? Renewable resource is human beings.
And rather than create sustainable development after the project starts, it should be something that people should be demanding when they sign up MOAs with developers.
They are helping make real the promise of wealth. We all know that it is hard for us to extract the wealth from the gold and the oil and turn it into tangible benefits on the ground. But you can see that tangible benefit right out there with that road. And now you in Gulf Province are on the brink of having your own resource projects, participating in very important oil and gas projects. So you must insist that those resources also touch down here in Gulf, that they benefit your brothers and sisters in the other provinces, but also that they benefit you here.
PNG is going through a resource boom, and the call from these experienced people is that we need to make the best of this opportunity.
This is probably my last visit in the country for a while, as I'm moving on to a new position in Africa, and I will certainly miss Papua New Guinea. It's a great place, great people, and it is at a time when the country is growing. It's growing fast. It has been blessed with resources, and I think that this is a nice challenge to have as a country, how to spend well the money that will be coming in from all these mega projects, and good luck with all that.
We're saying goodbye to Demetrios, who was our team leader for the Karama-Malalau Road, which is very sad, but we're saying hello to our new team leader, Jim, who will be with you for the next phase of the Karama-Malalau Road.
This is just one story of just one road. Now Malalawa and Kerama are connected. Can more be done?
Very interesting to know what the World Bank has done to improve the road condition. This indeed is a great help to the people of Kerama, especially with the LNG pipelines running through their land. This is an easy access to transporting goods and services for the people. Now, after the break, we have the US Ambassador, Teddy Taylor, briefing us about the Global Economic Statecraft Day, so stick around. For this business segment, first is marking up chats to the US Ambassador, His Excellency Teddy Taylor, about the Global Economic Statecraft Day. Let's hear what they have to discuss.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome back to this segment of Resource PNG. Now, touching base on the world of business in Papua New Guinea, we have on set with us the US Ambassador, His Excellency Teddy Taylor, who'll give an insight into an event initiated last year by the US State Secretary Hillary Clinton, an event called Global Economic Statecraft Day. Good evening, Ambassador, and welcome on set.
How are you?
I'm okay. And now, this is a new initiative initiated last year. Could you tell us what the Global Economic Statecraft Day is, and what time was it observed in Papua New Guinea?
Economic Statecraft Day is observed on June 14th. It is a global initiative directed by Secretary Clinton and her team to draw attention to improving and increasing economic relationships between the United States and countries around the world. Secretary Clinton believes that President Obama's administration believes that one of the fundamental pillars of any meaningful bilateral relationship is economic prosperity. And Economic Statecraft Day is nothing more than an attempt by us, the United States, to draw attention to the need to increase economic ties around the world.
Mm-hmm. I believe this idea was initiated last year. What is the aim, or what brought about such a day?
It's trying to put our priorities in order. Economics has always been a major part of any bilateral relationship the United States has had with Papua New Guinea. I believe we are the largest we, the United States, represent the largest single direct investor here in the country. And what this is an effort to do is to increase ways for us to increase our economic relationship.
For example, discussing how we can improve tourism between our two nations is one way to improve, enhance the economic relationship.
So could you share with our viewers what this event encourages?
The event encourages improved trade, improved commerce. We believe one of the keys to successful democratic governments around the world is economic prosperity. People that can have a realistic aspiration to meet their own goals for themselves through their participation in their country's economy. Statistics or studies show that they tend to be saddled with less domestic turmoil. Economic Statecraft Day, for example, is an effort to greatly or highlight ways to improve business between the United States and Papua New Guinea, whether that's Papua New Guinea investment in the United States or whether that's U.S. investment in Papua New Guinea. It doesn't have to be, we're not expecting it to be one way, we expect it to be two way.
So by what theme did this year's event go by?
I beg your pardon?
The theme of the event this year?
The theme of the event is economic prosperity. We, for example, earlier this year, we got a head start. Earlier this year, we sponsored a visit by the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative in the United States, came to PNG, had a very brief courtesy call on the Prime Minister, but more importantly met with officials in the Ministry of Trade to discuss ways that we can improve our trade relationship. First, in order to improve trade, you also have to understand what are the requirements in order to enter into a trading relationship, a more robust trading relationship with us, and for us to understand what it requires to enter into a more robust trading relationship with PNG. That visit was fundamental. It was the first visit ever by a member of the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative. And what that does was it sets us up for further discussions in the future on issues of mutual concern. For example, intellectual property rights is an issue of mutual concern. One concern we have in the United States is PNG understanding our phytosanitary rules and regulations governing the export of agricultural products from the United States to Papua New Guinea, because we believe that we can be competitive if we were able to export frozen foodstuffs from the United States to PNG. That gives consumers here a broader selection of goods to choose from. And I think by any objective metric, people would agree that competition is a good thing.
So in summary, in terms of gaining economic popularity, what is the U.S. government doing to encourage investment between the both countries, Papua New Guinea and the United States?
I speak on a regular basis with U.S. business people in the United States who have traveled here often, sometimes by email or by phone or video conference about investment opportunities here in Papua New Guinea. There is a lot of interest on the part of the American business community in investing here. However, some are afraid of the distance. Others want to know a little bit more about it. And I think also others want to see the success of the ExxonMobil project before they make a significant capital investment here in Papua New Guinea. But we have to start now in order to make sure that these investors eventually come to PNG and invest. That means jobs for Papua New Guineans in different sectors, and these business people come from a wide cross-section of businesses in America.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you very much, Festus. Have a good evening.
Well, this was another informative program for tonight. You can also watch Resource PNG online. Our MTV online site is www.mtv.com.pg. And if you have any comments, we would love to hear from you. Email us resourcepng@mtv.com.pg. Until the same time next week, good night and God bless.